When we look back at history, our attention usually goes to the big names, right? The soldiers, the public figures. But what about the people who held everything together back home? Today, we're diving into a story that actually begins where most stories end, with a death, to uncover the incredible life of a woman history almost completely forgot, Sarah Seaver. So, take a look at this. This gravestone, it marks the end of a life. Captain Norman Seaver, a respected officer from the Revolutionary War. For him, this was the end. But for his wife, Sarah, this stone, well, it marks the beginning of an entirely new, completely unexpected chapter of her life. Let's try to picture it. It's just a typical summer afternoon in 1787. Sarah Seaver's probably busy, going about her day, when news arrives that just shatters her entire world. There's been an accident down at the town's meeting house raising. Her husband, he's fallen. 32 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how long Sarah and Norman had been married. They had built an entire life together, moved across Massachusetts, and raised 13 children. We're talking about a life built on partnership and shared history. And in one single tragic instant, it was all upended. Norman fell from the heavy timbers of the new meeting house frame, and he died almost immediately. Just like that, at 53 years old, Sarah's life was changed forever. And the weight of this new reality must have been immense and immediate. Now, while many of her children were grown, Sarah was suddenly the sole parent to 5 of them, ranging in age from just 7 to 12. Her grief couldn't just be grief. It was now this profound, overwhelming responsibility. Now here's where the story takes a really cruel, ironic twist. Norman served as an officer in the Revolution. He faced all the dangers of war, and he came home safely to his family, only to be killed years later in a fluke construction accident right in his own town. It's just unbelievable. So, in the midst of all this sorrow, Sarah had no time to just fall apart. She had to step into a formal legal role she never, ever expected to hold. She had to learn to navigate a world of finance, law, and property, a world almost entirely dominated by men. Because his death was so sudden, Norman died intestate. It's a legal term, it just means he didn't have a will. And that single fact forced Sarah right into the deep end of the 18th century probate court system, which, let's just say, was not designed to be friendly to women. Less than 2 months after her husband's death, Sarah formally took charge. She was appointed administratrix and was bonded for £2,000. That was a massive sum of money back then. This was no symbolic title. This was a serious legal and financial responsibility for every single thing her family owned. And this right here, this is what she was managing. We're talking a 106-acre farm, buildings, all the livestock, tools, personal goods, the whole shebang. In essence, Sarah became the de facto CEO of a pretty big family business, suddenly making all the decisions about crops, money, and their future. But, her challenges went way beyond legal documents. Managing an estate, that was one thing. But navigating the deep personal currents of loss and life, well, that was another battle entirely. And just when it seemed like he had already endured the absolute worst, Sarah was about to face a sorrow that, for any parent, is the most profound of all, a pain that surely rivaled even losing her husband. 8 years after Norman's death, their daughter Relief passed away. She was just 20 years old. Think about it. Sarah had raised this child alone through her most formative teenage years, only to lose her just as she was on the cusp of adulthood. It's a truly devastating blow. It's a question that feels impossible to answer, right? But it was a question Sarah had to live out every single day. Faced with this compounded tragedy, she had to find a way not only to keep going, but to keep providing a stable home for her other children. And somehow, she did. Life, in its relentless way, just kept going. Even as she was grieving, she was also celebrating. Her children grew up and got married. In fact, her daughter Faithia's wedding happened just a few months after Relief's death. It's such a bittersweet symbol of life's unending cycle of sorrow and joy. So, what does this all add up to? Sarah lived as a widow for 21 years. And in that time, she didn't just survive. She built a legacy, one that was a whole lot quieter than her husband's, but no less powerful. This slide really gets to the heart of it all. Norman is remembered for his public service, his rank, his formal gravestone. But Sarah's legacy is quieter, and you could argue more enduring. She was the matriarch who managed the farm, guided the family, and made sure it continued. Her legacy is alive. And the proof is right here in the numbers. In an era with incredibly high child mortality, Sarah successfully raised 12 of her 13 children to adulthood. That is an incredible achievement. It's a testament to her care, her strength, and her management. And what's the ultimate result of her 21 years of perseverance? Thousands of descendants who are alive today. At the end of the day, her quiet strength didn't just save a farm, it created generations of a family that spread across the entire continent. When you really look at the records, the legal documents, the guardianship papers, managing that huge estate, you see a woman of immense competence and dignity. Her story isn't one of just passively enduring. It's a story of actively triumphing over unimaginable hardship. And that really leaves us with a final thought. Sarah Seaver's story was hidden, tucked away between the lines of old legal records. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other quiet, powerful legacies are out there just waiting in the archives, belonging to the people who held the world together? Whose stories are we forgetting to tell?